Let's do some simple watercoloring today. Hello and welcome to Creative Coloring with Iram. Today is an exciting day as Altenew has released their Craft Your Life project kit. I'm sharing several cards I created using this kit on the blog. Link is in the description. This Craft Your Life project kit is called the Seasonal Blooms. This has one 6x8 stamp set which has a large image, 2 smaller flowers and lots of sentiment stamps. Then we have a coordinating die set which will die cut the stamped words, and it also has word dies which I absolutely love. These are very fine word dies. We also have a coloring stencil and a 3D embossing folder. So you get these 4 items in the kit to create your projects, and you can create several projects. I only created 4 on the blog, but I had ideas for so many more. I was just running short on time. I'll use Obsidian ink to stamp the image on A2 watercolor cardstock. Then I'll use my heat tool to dry the ink. I'll be using the watercolor brush markers to color. I'll apply some of the pigment on my palette. Whenever you want more control on how much pigment you want to add, apply it onto a palette or on a slick surface rather than using the brush markers directly. I'll apply water to the petal and then add a low concentration of citrus burst. You can use any yellow pigment you have, or really any pigment you want to add. I'll be coloring petals that are next to each other, as this is not the type of image or the kind of coloring where I have to be careful of water or pigment contaminating the next petal. I'll also add mango smoothie pigment closer to the flower center and spread it outwards to the tip. Once the first layer of color is down, you can mix orange cream and mango smoothie and tone this down by mixing yellow ochre pigment. And add this close to the flower center, then spread it out a bit. This will change the hue of the flower to orange. Since I have the yellow ochre out, I'll add a layer of it on the flower center and leave it to air dry. For the leaves, I'll use just green, lime and sea forest. Again, I'll apply water to the area. Then I'll start by adding lime to the area. You can also add a bit of citrus burst to the raised portion to show a bit of highlight or sunlight falling on the leaves. This is completely up to you. And if you want your lime pigment to be a little bit muted, then add a bit of mango smoothie to it. I also added a bit of mango smoothie to it because I am edging towards muted tones. Not very vibrant tones and not very muted tones, but something in between. To the just green pigment, add a bit of sea forest pigment to tone down the color. Since we are toning down all the colors a bit, let's just tone down this very vibrant green as well, so that leaves go with the flowers at least. Now add this as stippling, so you can keep on building layers of colors if you want, but you can also leave it as is, just add one color wash. And if you want your second layer or your third layer or your stippling to be more prominent, then use your heat tool to dry between layers. For the flower center, I'll use tree bark, and since it has a bit of a red undertone, I'll add yellow ochre to it to add a bit of warmth and to match my color palette, or just to match my flower petals. I'll add this as stippling, the mixture of tree bark and yellow ochre, and I'll leave this to air dry. For the tulips, I'll again apply water to the area I want to color. Then I'll drop in ruby red pigment next to where the flower connects to the stem. Then I will spread it towards the middle. I'll then add mango smoothie to the tip of the petal and move it downwards to the middle. I'll leave it as is and let it mix on its own and let it air dry. Then I'll move to the other areas of the flower and color them in the same manner. For the leaves of the tulips, I'll add less sea forest pigment so that they look a little bit different than the first leaves I colored. For the smaller flowers, I'll add a very diluted pigment of ultraviolet, purple wine, and a bit of ruby red. These pigments will be dropped in randomly and also mixed in some places, so think of these as my wildflowers. Now I'll go back to the sunflower to add details using the yellow ochre brush directly. You can leave this part out, but this actually looks really cool because now the sunflower has dried a bit. We let it air dry while we're working on the rest of the panel. So you use your yellow ochre brush directly to add a bit of stippling there and a little bit of detail. And if you think that the yellow ochre is too prominent or too dark for your liking, then use mango smoothie to soften some of the stippling. But this does look very artsy in the end once it dries, so I would recommend that you leave it as is. For my background, I'll add winter fog. But first I'll add it as a shadow next to the images. While I'm doing this, it will absorb and dry a little and will give me a line that I need from the brush marker. I'll use a wet paintbrush then to activate the pigment, this line that I drew, and also use a bit of pigment that I've got on the palette if I need any. My background will be lighter as I move upwards. I'll also go over that initial shadow line. Once I'm done with the background, I have this dark background at the bottom, and as I move towards the top edge of the panel, it goes lighter, an ombre background of sorts, and then I will go back in and reinforce that shadow line that I added at the very beginning so that it's visible. But because the panel is still wet, it won't be as harsh and it will diffuse a little bit. And it will look really cool. It will look like a shadow and you don't even have to work very hard for it. I'll dry the panel and add fine black paint splatters and stamp my sentiment. I have other ideas for you on the blog where I use coloring stencil to create this gorgeous card after I heat embossed it in gold embossing powder. Then mix media inks and 3D embossing folder to create this card. I also have a video for this technique. I also share this letterpress card that I almost gave up on. Hop on over to the blog. There is so much inspiration for you guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Hello there! Did that video just spark your creativity? And do you want more project ideas and inspiration videos too? Well, if you do, please make sure that you subscribe to the Altenew YouTube channel. Also, make sure that you do click that notification bell so you don't miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye bye!